Okay, yeah. Hey, this is Breadman here. We're back again. And yeah, thanks for stopping by. Man, it's beginning of March here in Ohio. Weather's kind of doesn't know what to do. Warms up, then it gets cold, snow. So we're just taking a day at a time here in Ohio. And yeah, we're still working on that last song. We've just kind of discovered a middle part. There still needs some work to do, but I'm just gonna play what we have so far, and just we'll dive into the lyrics a little bit. But I have a lot of. Actually, maybe we'll skip diving into the lyrics this week, and we'll for the scripture. I haven't been diving into too much scripture this week. I've been big time into the politics, so that's not like me. So anyway, I found this cool reading online, and we'll dive into that. That's going to take a while to get through. So anyway, so from last week, if you listened last week, we have the verse. It's the same thing. So the first time around, it'll be a lower tone, and then that will go up. Now, I wasn't able to find that second verse, but I know I wrote it down on a piece of paper somewhere. I'm sure it's somewhere pretty close, so we use that. I would say the whole point is maybe it's, to me, this is, if you missed last week, it's ran into a friend who's been living out of their back of the pickup truck, and then one of our patients asked for prayer for her sons. Later find out that the one of the sons is homeless, and so I feel like all of a sudden this song kind of took on this kind of like a homelessness vibe, and it's interesting just kind of diving in to even think about Jesus being homeless. And the more I think about it, it's just the more I see of how he was. He didn't have that permanent shelter. Even in the Old Testament, a lot of those guys didn't have they lived in tents, and it's just was part of the culture, and they were looking forward to their eternal home. So some interesting parallels with it, but anyway, yeah. So you guys have heard the first one if you listened last week. Try to breathe, but it's cold in here, but outside it calls. Can you hear me? Then I'll go into the second verse, but it'll go a little higher pitch. Goes higher. Then it'll go a little lower. Hear me. And then this is where I'll go into the next part. Every day I've been waiting, hoping for just a little return, something much better. Whether or not you care about me is my life. It matters, no matter what. None of say my maker made me, saved me for something unique. Like a solo there. Hear me, hear me, can you that part, and then to the third verse. Or we'll go to an ending. Or a melody like this. So actually, we won't go through the verse, the lyrics this week. Usually we go through the lyrics, but to me, it's taken on the song has taken on something about homelessness, and interesting. So I'm sure the lyrics will still be kind of unfolding. But that one part is new. And it actually, I was just kind of recording. You guys know I do that. I use a little mini recorder. And I was listening back to it to come up with some more words. And you could hear Hannah, she's got these high heels. You can hear in the background, it's going click, 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 click. And I'm thinking, that's perfect part for that. So when that music part comes in, I'm sure I can come up with some kind of cool solo, like something kind of high up there. But so that's a fun part. And actually, the other kind of riff that came out was some kind of it's something like that. It's not necessarily that, but it's something close to that. So that could go in there. We'll see kind of what's going on. So I feel like here comes train. Get a yawn in. You can tell how excited I am about this song. I actually am. I really like this. Hear me. And it's been bugging me because nothing's really been coming out, and I feel like I almost went and got some new strings so I could have that fourth string on there that's missing, because I'm like, the riff isn't coming, there's no music coming. And then all of a sudden that one, I mean, that's classic Red B. I mean, it sounds just like something I would do. But anyway, that's it. And I feel like that last verse is almost going to be like, it's going to flip it around to, can you, like with God calling, like, can you hear him, like inside of you or in your soul? And I feel like that's going to get flipped around. So anyway, well, that's it music wise. Like I shared, I'm sure that there's going to be more revealed with these lyrics, and it's just kind of nice to know kind of where the song's going, because you're always chipping away, kind of wondering what's coming out of it. But after having that experience of talking to the lady and finding out about her son being homeless, I mean, it's just kind of part of the inspiration of just going about it day by day, and that being part of it. So anyway, we got this reading. I don't know how long this battery is going to last. I got 19% here. It's going to be a lot of reading. So, and it's not going to be, I'm not going to comment on anything. The name of it is called Jesus and the Homeless. And it's The author is Gerald O'Collins SJ. I don't even know what SJ means. But you can look it up. It's online, and it's from February 3rd, 2011. That's when it was posted. This is really interesting, and this helped me to see in a different light in a way. At the same time, this doesn't say anything. One of the famous things where Jesus said in Matthew or something where, somebody wanted to follow him. He's like, they said, I'll follow you wherever you go. And Jesus is like, man, even foxes have dens and birds have nests, but the Son of Man doesn't, he doesn't have that. So in a way, to me, it's kind of saying, it's not going to be a very comfortable ride or comfortable place to go to. And I feel that, I'm not sure if it's in here or another article talked about Jesus being born homeless and in that stable in where cows would feed and died homeless with very little. Jesus had the job of a carpenter, and he left that to go for his ministry, to preach the gospel and the good news. And so, to me, I think Jesus is the ultimate example for us. But when he was being tested in the wilderness for 40 days, 40 nights, he didn't, I'm sure he was on the move. I don't know how much shelter he had, but I feel like that was a start of it. Let's just say this: he didn't have it easy, and that's inspiring to me. But anyway, guys, we have a lot of reading to do. Let's get to this. Let's see if this battery holds up, but I'm sure this is going to be a lot of reading. Again, I'll just read straight through it because I don't want to make any comments. I have a lot of them that I would have, a lot of thoughts, but I don't want to get in the way of this guy, Gerald O'Collins. It was actually from a speech that he gave, and somebody must have typed it out or something. So anyway, this is from Gerald. It says, the article starts, in Homelessness Week, Gerald O'Collins SJ asked us to think about the way in which Jesus identified himself with the homeless and took every opportunity to speak about and help them. When we consider that Jesus himself was homeless for much of his life, how does this challenge us to see the face of Jesus in all those in need? As Jesus remarked to Judas Iscariot, you always have the poor with you, John 12:8. Looking around at the cities, towns, and refugee camps of our world, we might make this remark more specific and say, we always have the homeless with us. Jesus had some powerful things to say about the situation of the homeless and did many things for them. He was also a homeless person himself. Then it says boldly, Jesus, one of the homeless. Jesus did not start life at home or in a hospital. He was born in a stable, and his crib was an eating trough for animals. That's how his life began, as a homeless baby born to parents who were sleeping rough. He had hardly come into the world when Mary and Joseph took him across the border to escape the murderous intentions of King Herod the Great. Jesus became a baby on the run, a homeless asylum seeker in Egypt. During the years when he was growing up in Nazareth, Jesus did enjoy a home to live in. But once he was baptized by John and began his public ministry, he became again a homeless person. Speaking about himself as the Son of Man, he said, "Foxes have holes and birds of the air have nests, but the Son of Man has nowhere to lay his head." Matthew 8:20 and Luke 9:58. Foxes can be safe because they live in warm burrows down in the earth. Birds can be safe and sound in their nests, high up in the trees. But Jesus did not have that kind of safety and security. He had no home he could call his own, no fixed dwelling where he could lay his head on a pillow and go to sleep at night. He lived his life out in the open, sometimes alone, and sometimes sleeping rough at night. At the end, Jesus did not die at home or in a hospital, being supported by the kind of care that dying people can expect. He died by slow torture as a kind of barbarous entertainment for curious spectators. Who is more homeless than a person nailed up on a cross? Jesus had been stripped of his clothes to die in agony with no home, no possessions, no bank account, and hardly a friend within sight. In his own particular way, Jesus was born, lived, and died as a homeless person, the brother and friend of all homeless people, and of all refugees and asylum seekers. I love that paragraph there. Jesus' concern for the homeless. Jesus repeatedly showed his practical concern for homeless people. Let me mention only two of many examples: a possessed man and a leper. Mark's gospel tells at length the story of a demoniac, Mark 5:1-20. He behaved in a violent, antisocial, and self-destructive manner. He lived among the tombs and belonged to the realm of the living dead, an outcast from society, someone with whom no one wanted or dared to live. Without being asked, Jesus delivered the demoniac from the evil spirits who tortured him and restored him to a normal existence. No longer feared and despised, the man could once again share a home and take his place in society. Ignoring the law about keeping his distance from other people, a leper came close to Jesus, fell at his feet, and said, "If you choose, you can make me clean." Mark 1:40-45. Jesus' heart went out to the poor man. He touched his ravaged face and cured him. The homeless leper no longer had to sleep rough, but could now return to his home and family. And then the next title, The Homeless in Jesus' Parables. In ways that have continued to challenge his followers ever since, Jesus also spoke about homeless people in two parables and in his picture of the Last Judgment. In the parable of the Good Samaritan, Luke 10:25-37, Jesus told the story of a traveler who had been robbed and was left lying badly wounded at the side of a country road. It is a parable that I once helped to reenact. This is where this Gerald guy tells his own experience here. One evening in Sydney, I was walking down a suburban street with one of my sisters and a female cousin of ours. At the time, my sister was a social worker, our cousin was a nurse, and I was a newly ordained priest. A man was sitting on the footpath with his feet dangling into the gutter and his body gently swaying backwards and forwards. The smell of spirits caught us as we walked by. Half an hour later, the three of us came back along the same street to find an ambulance crew loading the man on board. He was drunk, all right. He had been sitting down because a car had hit him, breaking his leg and driving off. "It's the Good Samaritan story all over again," my sister commented, "only this time, instead of a priest and a Levite passing by on the other side, it's been us three, a priest, a social worker, and a nurse passing by on the same side." Ouch. Then it goes on here. In the story that Jesus told, the Samaritan might have pushed on down the road to the inn and told the innkeeper, "There's a man lying wounded on the hill. Can't somebody do something about it?" But his heart had gone out to the victim of the bandits, and he personally took charge of the situation. He used the wine that he was carrying to clean the traveler's wounds and provide a kind of antiseptic. He applied some olive oil as a salve to soothe the pain. Then he tore up some spare clothing to bandage the wounds. Loading the traveler on his own mount, he took him down the hill to the inn and spent the night looking after him. The following morning he paid the innkeeper 2 denarii, the amount that could cover a 2-month stay in an ancient inn, and promised to return and pay for any further expenses. Caring for the wounded man cost the Samaritan some wine, oil, clothing, money, and an unexpected overnight delay. The parable has 2 questions to Christians ever since. Will you let your heart go out to those in distress? Will you care for them even at considerable personal expense? In the second parable, that of the rich man and Lazarus, Luke 16:19-31, Jesus presents another man faced, this time, day after day, with the homeless person in terrible need. The parable does not suggest that the rich man has gained his wealth by immoral or even criminal practices. His sin is one of omission. Although he has the money to be elegantly dressed and extremely well fed every day, he ignores a destitute person at his doorstep who would have been satisfied to eat the leftovers from the lavish feast. It is a painful contrast that Jesus describes here. The rich man dresses in the most expensive clothing and presumably has many friends, as well as his 5 brothers and other relatives, to gorge themselves at his table. Lazarus is dressed in his sores. No one comes to do anything for him but some dogs. Where human beings fail in their duty of loving concern, the animals at least do what they can. By licking the sores of Lazarus, they give him some relief. The rich man enjoys nothing but good things, whereas Lazarus has almost nothing but evil things. The painful contrast continues after death, but now in a strikingly reversed manner. The poor, homeless Lazarus is carried away by angels to be comforted in Abraham's bosom. That is to say, in the life to come, he enjoys a choice position at the heavenly banquet. The rich, well-fed man dies and is buried, an ominous word that receives immediate clarification. He has gone down to be tormented in the underworld. When he looks up, he sees Lazarus at the side of Abraham. In his tragic situation, the rich man now needs a little help from Lazarus, the very person he cruelly neglected during life on earth. He pleads with Abraham, "Send Lazarus to dip the tip of his finger in water and cool my tongue, for I am in agony in these flames." But Abraham stresses, Lazarus and the rich man are now separated. During their earthly existence, they lived a very short distance from each other. The rich man could very easily and quickly have brought some food, clothing, and medicine to Lazarus. Now, however, a great chasm keeps the 2 men apart. It is impossible for them to meet. Even if Lazarus wants to perform some kind of kindness for the tortured rich man, a huge gulf separates them. What's the difference between the rich man and the Good Samaritan? The latter does everything he can for the wounded victim of robbers. The former does nothing for the homeless and starving Lazarus, who is lying not some distance away down the road, but right there, day by day, at the entrance to the rich man's house. The rich man seems like a professionally religious person who uses the right words but fails to live out his faith. 3 times he uses the right words in his dialogue with Abraham, calling him Father Abraham, Father, and Father Abraham again. The parable of the Lazarus and the rich man shows in a dramatic fashion how religious words on their own are not enough. And then it says for the next title, The Very Face of Jesus. The picture of the Last Judgment, Matt 25:31-46, puts before us 6 kinds of people: the hungry, the thirsty, aliens, the naked, the sick, and prisoners. The distress they suffer involves most of them in being homeless. In the 2 parables mentioned above, Jesus did not say, I was lying robbed and wounded by the side of the road and you took care of me. Or I was covered with sores and begging for food at the entrance to your home and you fed me and cleansed my sores. In speaking of the Last Judgment, however, Jesus goes beyond the two parables and identifies himself with those in terrible distress. He is the asylum seeker. He is the wounded traveler. He is the beggar covered with sores. Such people bring us the very face of Jesus. They express his never-ending stations of the cross. In and through the homeless, the refugees, the prisoners, the hungry and sick, Jesus continues to be in agony. In them, his passion goes on. The Old Testament prophets vigorously reminded their audience to care for widows, aliens, orphans, and other people in distress, but none of them took the further step that Jesus did. He identified himself with the homeless and all others in terrible need. That remains the heart of his challenge to all of us. Jesus, the homeless one, have mercy on us. And that is from Gerald O'Collins SJ. Says he has authored or co-authored 56 published books. The most recent includes Jesus, a Portrait. And then it says, this is an abbreviated version of a lecture delivered for St. Vincent de Paul's Society in Bendigo, Australia, November 2010. Oh man, that was a lot of words, a lot of reading. But anyway, I mean, just reading that, it's to me, it's inspiring. And golly molly, just last week we were talking about that Good Samaritan. Remember with at the gas station? And I went just half the distance. Interesting. So I feel like where I'm at in my life is I need help need God's Spirit with being that Good Samaritan. I feel like, man, I can bring forth the words, but does my heart truly care? And not just for somebody who's homeless or struggling, but truly my heart, even for my family. Like, do I really care to take action? Am I moved with the kind of like what Gerald said at the end, like, do I have that heart of Christ? And it's kind of disappointing to say, no, I don't. And so maybe that's a place to start. And so that's kind of where I'm at. But anyway, that's it, man. To me, man, that was a lot of reading. I'm not used to reading that much, but to me, it helps me see the gospel and Jesus in a different way. I haven't really thought about Jesus a whole lot as being homeless. I feel like when I was out in Colorado, there was a religious guy. I listened to him and his wife on the radio. Not going to say the name, but he would get upset with the homeless people. Or back then there was a lot of homeless people. Now there's a ton of homeless people in Denver, and he wouldn't give them any money. And so I kind of took that attitude as well. And looking back, maybe that's okay for him, but at the same time, need to make my own decision of being wise and kind of going like that, because sometimes you got people with bad motives. I don't know. I mean, sometimes people aren't as honest as they can be. I would say that we have the West Side Market, and as a school, we went as a school probably 4th or 5th grade. And we this was probably our first time going to Cleveland, and I was with Butler, my good friend Butler, fireman and Coach Butler. But anyway, at the time, we bought some food there at the West Side Market, and we went as a school and fun as heck, goofing off. And then all of a sudden there's this homeless guy and we were leaving and he asked Butler and Butler gave him some money. And he had this like walker or something. And he was kind of faking it or something. And so we go buy some more food and all of a sudden you see this guy and it's probably like Klein or something's like, hey Butler, look at this. Look at that guy. He had that walker. And he wasn't even, he was carrying that thing and he was walking just normal. So that kind of ruined it for me with being charitable to the homeless. But everybody's different. Every situation's different. I'm not telling you what to do. I would say go with your gut, like we talked about last week. Are we going to enable somebody? What do they really need? Maybe sometimes, maybe it's just attention. Maybe it's just a listening ear. Somebody is not going to judge them. Maybe not. It's scary because you don't really know them. You don't know if they're on drugs. You don't know if they're going to attack you. So it's just every situation's different. And again, I'm not telling anybody to do anything. But anyway, yeah, well, let's leave it at that. Man, yeah, it took me back to that West Side Market. I'll never forget that. But anyway, well, God bless. Yeah, thanks for tuning in. Hopefully next week we'll have some more chiseled away on this song. It'll be interesting. To me, it's starting to take shape, and that's always exciting. So I'll try not to rush this one, but at the same time, take it a day at a time and see what plays out. All right, God bless. May the Lord chisel away and work on our hearts so that we will be people of action, that we will be Christians who have a sensitive and a feeling heart and a wise heart to go in the direction that the Lord has for us. All right. In Jesus' name, amen. Go forth. Man, make a difference. Start with your family first and let the Lord guide. And let's see where he takes us day at a time. All right. God bless.